Introduction. Benzene is a clear, colorless, and highly flammable liquid with a sweet odor. It is widely used in industrial process, particularly in the production of plastics, resins, synthetic fibers, rubber lubricants, dyes, detergents, and pesticides. Despite its industrial utility, benzene is a highly toxic compound and poses serious health risks upon exposure. Then, benzene primarily enters the body through inhalation, but it can also be absorbed through the skin or ingested. Once inside the body, it is metabolized in the liver to form reactive metabolites that can damage bone marrow and other tissues. The toxic effects of benzene can be both acute and chronic. First, acute exposure to high concentration may cause symptoms such as dizziness, headache, drowsiness, confusion, tremors, and in extreme cases, unconsciousness or death. Second, chronic exposure even at low levels is particularly hazardous and is linked to bone marrow suppression, aplastic anemia, and blood cancer, especially acute myeloid leukemia.
Let's begin with the most direct approach, which is limiting exposure to benzene in the workplace. Firstly, ventilation is crucial. Proper airflow in places like factories or lab helps prevent harmful vapor from building up. Next, protective equipment is a must. Workers should always be equipped with gloves, respirators, and goggles to reduce the risk of inhalation of skin contact. And finally, exposure monitoring. Regularly measuring benzene levels ensure the air stays within safe limits. OSHA recommends not exceeding 1 part per million during an 8-hour workday. Moving on to another strategy, which is to substitute benzene with safer alternatives where possible. If not possible, we can modify the process using closed systems like sealed containers or pipelines. Helps prevent benzene from leaking into the air. Also, let's not forget the personal hygiene. Workers must wash their hands thoroughly after handling benzene, and it's recommended to shower and change clothes after exposure to reduce skin absorption. Outside the workplace, we also need to think about environmental exposure. Since cigarette smoke contain benzene, avoiding smoking can significantly lower exposure, especially in polluted areas. Air quality control is also vital. Governments should monitor and regulate benzene levels to ensure public safety. Lastly, education and training play a key role. Workers need to be aware of benzene's danger, symptoms of exposure, and safety protocols. Regular training helps keep everyone informed and protected.
So there are 4 main places using benzene. First, chemical and petrochemical industry. Chemical production. Benzene is used as a raw material in the production of plastic, resin, synthetic rubber, and solvents. Workers in chemical or petrochemical factories are at risk of exposure to benzene. For petroleum processing, the production and distribution of gasoline often involve benzene, which can be released into the air. So, second, printing industry. Printing and solvents. Many solvents used in printing and paint manufacturing contain benzene. Workers in the printing industry or paint manufacturing are at risk of exposure. So for your third, fuel combustion and waste. Motor vehicle emissions. Benzene is found in vehicles as it is a byproduct of fuel combustion. Cigarette smoke. Cigarette smoke contains benzene as one of the harmful chemicals produced by burning tobacco. So, number 4, everyday consumer products. different solvents and cleaners. Some household products such as paint removers, cleaning agents, and adhesives contain benzene as one of the active ingredients. Second, industrial chemical. Products containing benzene such as glues, varnishes, solvents, and electronic packaging can also release benzene into the air.
How to prevent benzene toxicity? First, substitute with safer chemicals and avoid harmful fumes. Whenever possible, replace benzene with less toxic substances in industrial or lab settings. This greatly reduces the health risk linked to the benzene exposure. At the same time, avoid areas where gasoline, paint thinners, or industrial solvents are being used, especially in enclosed or poorly ventilated spaces, since these can contain benzene fumes that are harmful when inhaled. Second, improve ventilation and use closed systems. Work in well-ventilated areas and make use of fumes hoods or local exhaust systems to remove benzene vapors from the air. Additionally, handle benzene in sealed containers or closed systems whenever possible. This limits the release of harmful vapors and reduces the chance of exposure. Third is to wear proper protective gear. Always wear chemical-resistant gloves like nitrile or neoprene to prevent skin contact. Use safety goggles or a face shield if there's a risk of splashing. If ventilation is poor or exposure may exceed safe limits, wear a properly fitted respirator to protect your lungs from benzene vapors. Fourth is monitor air quality and conduct health checks. Regularly check benzene levels in the workplace to ensure they stay within safe limits. Workers who are frequently exposed should also undergo routine medical exams, including blood tests, to detect any early signs of health issues related to benzene. Level risk of benzene toxicity. Benzene is a highly toxic chemical and is classified as a carcinogen, cancer-causing agent for humans. The level of health risk depends on the concentration of exposure, duration of exposure, and the route through which it enters the body: inhalation, skin contact, or ingestion. First, high-level short-term exposure, more than 1,000 parts per million or ppm, can cause acute symptoms such as dizziness, drowsiness, irregular heartbeat, confusion, and in severe cases, loss of consciousness or even death. Second, moderate, long-term exposure between 1 and 10 ppm over weeks or years may lead to bone marrow damage, anemia, immune system suppression, and a significantly increased risk of developing blood cancer, particularly acute myeloid leukemia (AML). Third is low-level exposure below 1 ppm, although generally considered safe under regulatory limits, can still pose long-term health risks, especially with continuous exposure, as benzene is a known carcinogen. The exposure limits set by OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, are 1 ppm for an 8-hour workday and 5 ppm for short-term 15 minutes exposure. NIOSH, National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, recommends even stricter limits of 0.1 ppm 8-hour time-weighted average. Therefore, strict safety precautions must be taken to avoid benzene exposure, including the use of personal protective equipment (PPE), proper ventilation systems, and regular air monitoring to ensure levels remain within safe limits.
And now I am going to talk about the discussion for this topic. Therefore, benzene is a highly toxic industrial chemistry commonly found in products like gasoline, plastics, and solvents. It poses serious health risks, particularly through inhalation and causes both acute and chronic effects. Short-term exposure may lead to dizziness, headaches, and respiratory irritation, while long-term exposure is strongly associated with blood disorders such as aplastic anemia, and cancer, like acute myeloid leukemia, or we call it AML. Benzene is also classified as the first group of carcinogen by the IARC. Due to its dangers, strict safety regulation and protective measures are essential, especially in workplaces where exposure is more likely to happen. And last but not least, we've come to the conclusion where benzene is a widely used industrial chemical that possesses serious health risks due to its high toxicity and carcinogenic properties. Prolonged or repeated exposure, especially through inhalation, can lead to severe health consequences, including bone marrow suppression, immune system damage, and an increased risk of blood cancer, such as acute myeloid leukemia, or AML. Its toxic effects are primarily linked to its metabolic byproduct, which interfere with cellular processes and DNA integrity. Given its widespread presence in the environment, from vehicle emission to cigarette smoke and industrial pollution, benzene represents a significant public health concern. Regulatory agencies worldwide have established strict exposure limits to protect workers and the general population, but continue vigilance if necessary. Effective control strategy, including the use of personal protective equipment or PPE, adequate ventilation, substitution with safer alternative, and regular monitoring are essential in reducing exposure. In conclusion, while benzene is an important chemical in many industries, its toxicity necessitates careful handling and strict adherence to safety guidelines. Ongoing research, regulation, and public health efforts are crucial to mitigate its harmful effects and ensure a safer environment for both workers and the wider community. That's all from us. Thank you.
Wait for me, I'm not far behind. I know that